This is a walk and talk video. I used to make a lot of walk and talk videos, and I make less now for some reason, I'm not quite sure why. I usually make it because I'm out with the dog. I say dog in the singular now, that's Phoebe, my dog. It used to be plural, but Guy died a couple of weeks back, so I'm just out with Phoebe. And when I first started making these, when I first started on YouTube actually, my very first video 3 years ago were walk and talks, because this is where I did my thinking. I was in the closing stages of my PhD, and this is where I did some thinking. And to help that thinking process along, I recorded them initially in notebooks, then in audio form, and then finally in video form, because that seemed like the best way of doing it, really. And I didn't realise at the time that it was actually a kind of genre on YouTube. But since that, I found out that is the case, and there's quite a few people on here doing this kind of thing, really. I know Gary and Mendham's done quite a few. Hi there, Gary. Who else? Bike Messenger 7, hello there, Earl. You make a lot of walk and talk videos. Barclay's done a couple. Dos Spook did one ages ago. TJ does life, or TJ on the TJ Does Life channel did one. Or 2 or 3 maybe, even about a year ago I was doing them. Oh, and there's loads of them, I think. I think there's even a guy called the Walk and Talk Guy, which I don't look at his videos, but I think he specialises in this kind of thing, really. And I do find them interesting. I'm going to try and start making more, actually. My lifestyle has changed a bit, so it fits in less well than it used to. And there's some reasons for that, I think, actually. I mean, one of the reasons that I used to like it more, well, most of might find it more conducive than I do now, is because my walks used to be very regular. You know, they were always the dog walk. I used to go through the same fields, past the same landmarks, take about the same length of time, usually about 45 minutes to an hour each time. And that would be personally just the right length of time to get the thinking going. And also the fact that the landscape was familiar gave a kind of regularity or a pattern to my thinking, I think. Almost as if it was one of those memory theatres, you know, those memory theatres that was popular in, well, various times in history, in medieval times, and I think the ancient Greeks used to use them, where you imagine an interior, if you've got something complex to remember, you imagine an interior architectural space, and then you populate it with things that will prompt your memory. And then when you want to do a recall, you imagine yourself walking through this architectural space and visualising these things on your journey, and that will prompt a recall. And it's almost like there was something of that going on for me. You know, for example, I'm just approaching what's called a salt line. You probably can't see it, it's behind those trees there, which is an old disused railway line. They used to take the salt from the processing works up in Middlewich down here towards Hanley and the potteries where it was used in the ceramics industry. And I would walk my dogs up and down the salt line sometimes, a bit like Darwin's sand walk. I always imagined it in my mind a bit like that. But there's something very rhythmic about that walk up and down the salt line. You know, you pass the same bits, you know, you cross the bypass there, and here you pass what's called the Dancing Bridge, which is a kind of little viaduct where apparently workers in the local factory used to hold dances. I don't know why, but they did. There's still teenagers gather under the Dancing Bridge now, but usually to drink cheap cider and make graffiti penises on the walls. But it's nice that these traditions continue. But the Dancing Bridge would be a landmark on my little journey up and down. And then there'd be the various farms at the far end, and just different things that I pass on the way, you know. Different styles I would have to go across if I wanted to go into a field. And the regularity of those I always found was quite conducive to a certain kind of ordered form of thinking. You know, the same ideas would occur to me as I would pass particular spots. Not terribly consciously, I would just find myself talking about the same things when I was in a certain familiar landscape. So that's one of the things I think I found really useful about this walking and talking thing, which has perhaps changed a bit because I tend not to walk up here very much these days, because I'm down in Cornwall most of the time now and I haven't established the patterns yet. But other things about it as well, I think. I also find it quite interesting in terms of what it does to, and I'm probably speculating way beyond the data here, but just what it does to an approach to knowledge. Because, you know, churning out ideas, doing this talking thing and trying to put ideas into a line and kind of rehearse them and describe the concepts that are running through your mind. For me at least, if it's too static, or if I just conceptualise that process of knowledge formation as being very static, it makes the knowledge kind of static, or it gives it that kind of feeling, as if I'm describing this ideal object seen from a particular perspective. If I'm stationary, then metaphorically speaking, the knowledge that I'm trying to access is similarly stationary, and I can only see one side of it, and the light is falling on it in a very regular way, and I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of how I appreciate it. Whereas if I'm on the move, if I'm talking and thinking through the ideas on the hoof, it feels like there's something active within me that is propelling me around the sides of any kind of fixed object. Just as I'm passing these trees, the trees that I'm passing right now beside the salt line here, they kind of change shape as I move around them, and the optical flow as it goes past me here kind of forces me to, on a non-conscious level I think, just to refuse that kind of fixity, or just to, at least to make it a bit more contested, I suppose. And the kinds of regularities that are here, as well as the variabilities. Here I am on the salt line. I'll just show you this because it's quite nice. Nice little perspective that way, which leads up to the bypass, and the perspective that way, which leads to Middlewich and the salt works. This perspective is unchanging, and I quite like that. But other parts of my walk do different things. Let me just do this bit actually. So as I'm walking, this is optical flow by the way, I just want to show you this. So as I'm walking past this tree here, there's the tree, watch. It just kind of balloons as you go past it and fills your visual field, and then it's gone. And I just like that really. And the same thing with the sounds, you're walking through an auditory landscape as well. You can probably hear the cars and the birds. There's something snuffling in the bushes here, and my dog is snuffling down there, and all this auditory stuff is happening. I'm going to turn around and go back so I can get away from the noise of the bypass, and that's really interesting I think as well. Just the phenomenology of walking is different from the phenomenology of being still, and I like the way that I try to find the ways to let that affect my thought processes. What else? Well, I suppose that this is back to the walk and talk for camera thing really, I suppose. The fact that I'm walking and talking, because when I made my first videos I had the camera like this, and I would look straight to camera, but it's actually really inconvenient, it's uncomfortable, I feel a bit self-conscious about it, and I can't see where I'm going. So I put it to the side now, so the camera is like a voyeur? No, an audience. But it's an audience that looks at you from the side, This is something that Vito Acconci, the performance artist from the 19th, well, he did a lot of his more interesting work in the 60s and 70s, I think. But one of the things he said about his performance work, and it was self-indulgent and pretty bollocky, a lot of it, but one of the things he said about it in relation to audience is that the audience approaches as from the side. Says the audience is a kind of unacknowledged witness to the work. They're not in any kind of direct communication. I mean, I would dispute the fact that there's no communication. George Baselit said the same thing, there's no communication whatsoever, but I think he was wrong too. But when Vito Acconci is saying that, I can kind of appreciate what he's saying, even though there is clearly an act of communication going on. Just trying to think of some of his. He did video works like Velvet Water I think it's called, where he just immerses himself in water until he nearly drowns over and over again, and you kind of look at that work but you're powerless to do anything about it. You're looking at it from the side, and there's something like that going on for me from this thing. It's from the side. So even though I'm talking to you, I'm kind of only talking to indirectly. I'm kind of talking to myself and talking to the world and talking to the path and the dog, and that world, that path, that dog kind of circulates around and comes at me from the side. At least that's how I kind of experience it. Yeah, let's go down there, pups. I like making these choices. I'm going down some steps now. So the other thing about walking, which I really like, and just being out and doing stuff, is that the demands it places on your body is constantly changing. or I can make it change by doing this kind of thing, you know. So now I'm going down the steps, and that's making me think about elevation, height and depth and those kind of metaphors, and whether I should be speaking at a different level about this process. This is the steps by the dancing bridge, actually, so I'll just show you the dancing bridge while I'm here. It isn't a bridge that dances, as I think I've already explained. Look, here we go, look. As I say, this used to be, it's always been called a dancing bridge since, for like 100 years or so, since there used to be little factories around here and people would come and have little dances underneath it. But now, as I say, it's teenagers. Look, there's Scouse Bryn as opposed to Scouse Casper XS. They got very large penis, look. You see that? It's been oversprayed quite a bit since. There's Bryn again, look at Bryn. It's not one of my kids. Broken glass. Sometimes I have to come down here and pick up broken glass because of the dogs cutting themselves. That's what's going on with that. Yeah, I'll go back. Come on, thieves. Actually, that's another thing about this walking talk in the environment. You know, the acoustic quality changes as you move through them as well. Oh! You know, also I'm under the bridge and it's doing that, you know, which is making me think about echoes, and making me think about, it's just making me aware of the relationship between what I'm doing and the environment I'm doing it in, I suppose, which is normally completely transparent, isn't it, if you're not careful. You can just like forget that you're there and just think that you're thinking in a completely disembodied way, and you're not really. You're always thinking in a way which comes to the charnel house of your own flesh. Listen to the sound of that water. I love the sound of water. I made quite a few videos which just involved me pointing the camera at water, and I know some other people have too. Earl, Black Messenger 7, I suppose I'm thinking of you here. You've made a lot of videos by water. I particularly love the sound of it. Yeah. So here we are. I've walked by this river many times, and so have many other people. I'll just show you the footprints on the ground there, look. How many minutes have I used up? I wish this camera had a readout of the number of minutes on the front. It doesn't. I've used up 12.5 minutes. That's probably enough for now, actually. I have done a bunch of videos about walking, but not recently. But I am thinking about the walk and talk video and what it is. Because it's so different, isn't it, to the video where you sit at your desk with your computer and your webcam on the top. And you're not quite making eye contact, but you're looking at yourself. And when you see a video that's made in someone's front room or someone's office, and they're looking just slightly below the camera, which usually means it's a Mac because it's got the little camera built in, or it's got a webcam at the top, and behind them is the bookshelf and the art or whatever it is they want to display behind them. You can't really do that in nature, or you can, but it's constantly moving, and the only still point in the turning world of your experience is the side of a face. Now, now I've got my attention drawn to it. I can kind of feel the attention of the camera making the side of my face warm. Try this if you ever do these walking talks. Just think, does this side of my face feel a bit different to this side? Because this side is being recorded for posterity, whereas this side is not. I think it feels a bit warmer. And yeah, that'll do for now, I think.